I feel there's not enough discourse in the general public. When a government, they do mandir, and behind that they just like they pass laws and laws and laws. Is there any discussion around that? There is no discussion around that. Whatever ultimately is decided, if any particular law is as per the constitution or not, is it legal, it is not legal, that is there for courts to decide, yes. But where is the public discourse around those things? That also has to come up. You also have to start questioning those things. And now, and this again gets back, this again is linked back to the media. Earlier, suo motu cognizance, where courts are directly sort of taking cognizance of something and picking it up and doing it. Media had the biggest role to play in it. The
Absolutely.
media will report, then it will become a public thing, then the court will pick it up. The media, we all know what it's busy doing. It has nothing to. This protest, for example, had it not been for the independent journalists, had it not been for the content creators, uh, this would not have been what it was. And had it not been for social media, if such a thing had happened, if thank God that this government is at a time where we have the option of social media. Imagine such a government being in a place, or in a time where they have full control over the media, but the general public does not have any other access to information. What do you think would have happened then? And the governments have, and it's just scary to imagine that they don't give a shit about
Yeah,
your well-being.
I think we don't have to look too back. I don't think we have to look. We have to go back so much in time. Like when a lot of things were happening in Kashmir, nobody knew what was happening in Kashmir. Media was refused to cover what was happening in Kashmir, and the rest of us
Right.
were on absolute vibes on what we
Yeah,
feel we are going to support or going to be against. Nobody knows
exactly.
what happened on the ground except Kashmiris, for that matter.
Right.
So
Right. And now we are all
so
Kashmiris.
much it's happened. Manipur, no idea what's happening in Manipur. But today when Mirabai lifts that gets that gold, yeah, we are proud of you.
Proud of, yeah. This is, and now we're all, and everybody who went to that protest, they all felt like Kashmiris, if I'm being honest. For a little bit, they did have that feeling that they are like resisting something that is like so larger than them,
Hmm.
but they have to do it. They don't have any other option. And yeah, I think that is what the emotion the people had when they came. But what happened was just unfortunate.
No, I mean, now that we have uh, discussed in our textbooks,
Right.
as a student of political science history, we often read that the courts are the guardians of the constitution, that there
Correct.
is no one, they are at the gates of protection of the constitution. Now, I of course you can, based on how you would want to answer this question, or not. Uh, so you have laws like the UAPA today, like with
Sorry.
the very basis. We have laws of like the UAPA.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like when the very basis of the law is that you're innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
Correct. But when laws like UAPA is applied, where one does not get a trial for as long as the government wishes, where
Right.
one is immediately, well, the law automatically becomes you're guilty until proven innocent.
Right.
Isn't it the very law? Isn't it against the ethos of the constitution? And doesn't it also the responsibility fall upon the courts to declare it null and void?
See, I feel this is a question that has a very it it links to a very very broad question as well, right? Which is that when we say that such a law is there, which is contradictory to what the true ethos of the constitution is, then I feel everybody should reflect that our laws, like, what do we think is the consensus? Are laws there to help people out, or are the laws there to help the state out? And I feel that the tussle is there, that there are laws that don't favor the people. They favor the state. And the constitution, the law, everything is read and interpreted in a way as for those laws to help the state, right? And there are definitely also laws that help the people. But at the end of the day, when you see your state behaving in such a way, and then when you see that laws are being passed in which they end up helping them or aiding them to further whatever agenda they have, it's sickening. And all I can say at this moment is that yes, there are laws that inherently go against this very popular interpretation of the constitution, but they are also interpreted in a way to help the state out. And I feel there are those gaps, and those gaps will always be there in law. But but those gaps are filled by the imagination of the collective. Why are certain laws passed during certain governments and why are certain laws passed during certain governments? It all depends on the collective and what that government represents. If the government will represent a certain side of the spectrum, these gaps will be bridged as per that, and then the courts will interpret it as per that. But if that's not the case,
That's actually my
if there will
question.
be
Because that is actually my question. Is
right,
that now of course governments are democratically elected. They're the will of the people. Like that is what the
right,
people are feeling at the moment, and that is why
yeah,
that a certain government is in power. Now the judiciary is not an elected body. It is supposed to be the symbol of continuity, symbol of
right,
justice, and as the guardians of the constitution. So there
right,
is a reason why we don't elect judges, for that matter.
right, right,
So because when that continuity is expected, so it doesn't matter what government is in power, what their policy is in power. Inherently, that there is a principle on which there's a principle foundation on which your justice system should work. And so when if it's a situation like that arrives, where you have a really populist government for a really long
right,
time in power, uh, it
correct,
it can't. So ideal in an ideal society, it shouldn't influence the justice system.
correct. It should not. And then the ex chief justices also should not become Rajya Sabha MPs after their retirement. But sadly, we don't live in that side of a country. But like, if I have to take the example of farm laws, for example, the farm laws that had been passed by the government, I don't think that they would have been discarded if the court had intervened. I personally don't think so.
Hmm.
They were discarded because the people came and then they said that this is not what we want and this is not what we think is there. And the government, at the end of the day, the government has enough room to interpret the constitution and take out 10 laws. And then the courts may or may not be forced to sort of interpret them in a certain way. But at the end of the day, I feel it's very the problem with the judiciary is it's that it has kept itself really away from criticism,
Hmm.
which is not a healthy way for any state to function. Obviously, like the judiciary, as we know, it has certain very other problems as well. Like, for instance, like we still have a very colonial legacy to a lot of practices that do happen in like daily court practices. But even after that, even removing all of that, um, blindly trusting your justice system is also healthy because then you look into it with hope and all of that. But it can also be a little problematic if you don't criticize it within your given rights, because it is very important because you have to ask judges these questions as well. For example, if a judge after retirement or post retirement takes a Rajya Sabha membership, goes to an RSS event, um, is very very famously linked with an RSS event, has a history with RSS, um, and there are current judges who do qualify that. that example, but so then it's your job to also ask them, because at the end of the day, in a system which is dependent on checks and balances, India is dependent on checks and balances, but sometimes there is no other side checking you to do certain things. If I have to just like put it and in the best and the safest safest way I could, and that is where the people come, and we will have to come to the streets whenever we feel that that system is eroding.